Alrighty, I think it's about time to get started. We gave it a fair shot. If any stragglers come on board, I think we'll be able to pick right up. This conversation should be really good. So hello, first off, welcome and thank you for joining. Thank you both to the participants and also the webinar panelists today. I'm super excited to share with everybody a little bit more about how TheBus, based in Honolulu, is using operator reports, Swiftly's most recently released module, to both boost on-time performance and also morale among operators. So we'll dig into that throughout this webinar. And first things first, I want to start by just sharing the agenda and covering what we'll be talking about today. So first off, we will give a round of introductions so you really get to learn more about who we're talking with. And then we'll dig in and understand their network to understand some of the unique qualities and challenges that they face. I really look forward to talking with folks on the ground in the operations, on the operations staff at OTS, which is the operator, to hear how they're specifically using operator reports and informing their day-to-day work. We will debrief on kind of the outcomes or the results that have transpired out of use of the operator reports. And I would love to open the floor to question and answer after we have kind of a conversation initially. And I look forward to getting everybody's feedback throughout the webinar. And so to that end, I always like to run a little test or quality assurance on our question and answer functionality in the webinar to make sure that everybody feels like they can have a voice. And so in the registration, so many folks sent really good questions to the panelists. And so I've really tried to work a lot of those into the discussion that I've kind of worked out. And then, but if anything else comes to mind throughout the webinar, I want you to be able to use the Q&A functionality to send questions along. So to test that before we get into the conversation, you will see a Q&A button toward the bottom of the webinar screen that you're using. And so I would love to just have people do a quick test. And instead of a question, if you could submit just the city that you're calling in from, and we'll make sure that that's working for everyone. So go ahead and do that now. Click the Q&A button and type in the city that you're calling in from. Great, so I see a lot of things rolling in. We have some folks more locally. I see Denver, people from Canada calling in, so this is great. Looks like that's working. So now that everything seems to be working technically, let's dive right in. So let's start with some introductions. Could I get y'all to introduce yourselves?
Hello, my name is Ralph Alfata. I'm the Vice President of Transportation here at TheBus. Transportation is the operation section of the fixed route section, I should say, of the agency here.
Hi, I'm John Donovan. I'm in charge of field operations, and with the help of my assistants, we're responsible for staffing, monitoring, evaluating, and adjusting on-street operations here at TheBus to provide a safe, accessible, and efficient service.
Aloha, I'm Vera Vieira. I'm the superintendent or manager out at our Pro City Division, which is located central part of the island of Oahu. I'm separated from our main, I call it main branch or main facility out in Kalihi, where Ralph, John, and Robbie are located.
And I'm Robbie Tinkang. I'm the superintendent of transportation at our Kalihi division. Basically, the superintendents is the office that investigates all accidents and complaints, and if so, if we deem it necessary, counsel operators and also assess discipline if we deem necessary based on the accidents or complaints.
Thank you all so much. It's such a pleasure to get so many of you on this call. I've really appreciated working with you, and I'm really excited to bring your stories to life. And so that brings me to me. I'm Meredith Bordoni. I am the head of product at Swiftly, and how I kind of explain that is that I work really closely with our customers to understand what they need to run their day-to-day operations, to inform their planning, et cetera. And I kind of fold that back into what we're doing at Swiftly to make sure that we're building the right things and to plan out what our future looks like. So it's an honor to be here with you all. Let's go ahead and get started. First things first, I would love to get just a high-level overview of what we're talking about when we talk about the bus. What's your network look like?
So here at the bus, we have over 2,000 employees. We're the 14th largest employer in the state of Hawaii. On the fixed route side, we have 544 buses. On our paratransit division, we have 180 handy vans. We have approximately 1,000 fixed route operators and about 310 or so paratransit operators. We operate 105 fixed routes, and our service area includes the entire island of Oahu, which is the county of Oahu, just one county.
Great. A lot to do on a small island or small piece of geography relative to, I'm sure, many of the folks that are calling in. Could you share a little bit about some of the problems you face or the challenges?
Sure. Our number one challenge, as I'm sure it is probably is across the nation, is staffing, mainly bus operators. Every day we'll be short between 30 and 60 bus operators, some days more than others. It's funny, we had a delegation from Okinawa, a city in Okinawa, that visited our agency yesterday, and after talking with them, their number one problem is also staffing and getting bus operators. So it's not only a national problem, I believe it's international also maybe. But yes, that's actually our number one issue. Of course, if you don't have enough operators, we incur overtime. We've done several things to try to motivate operators. We've actually allowed them to sell back their vacation. In other words, forego their vacation and get paid for it and continue to work. So we've done a lot of different things. We have a clause in our contract that allows us to actually cancel one of their days off. They have 2 consecutive days off, but the contract allows us to cancel one of their days off if we ask for volunteers and we don't get enough volunteers. So we've had to do that a lot recently, and obviously that's not good for morale, but so far so good. We've actually even when we're critically short, we actually extend to the volunteers that they could, they get paid double time for working. It incurs more cost, but it does allow us to, get the service out to the street as best as we can.
Great. That I have definitely heard that problem elsewhere. So it's great to highlight that. And I'm curious if you could share a little bit about what you think the operator's role is in maintaining a high quality network. How does their behavior impact on-time performance, essentially?
Well, the operator is the most important part of it. I mean, you can have the greatest schedule, the most accurate schedule, but if the operator chooses not to follow that schedule for whatever reason, obviously it becomes meaningless. And as we, different agencies are struggling to keep the manpower or keep the buses on the road, or at least all of the buses on the road that should be on the road, it actually makes the operator even more of a focus, because those buses that are on the road, we do want them to run on time, so we can have some semblance of a schedule out there. And so it becomes even more important, in recent past, where if you have all the buses on the road, 1 or 2 are off schedule, well, yes, of course you want them all to be on schedule, but maybe you can live with that. But if you have to cancel a few buses, then being on time for the buses that remain is even more important.
And I'm curious, just continuing to set the stage, if you could share a little bit more about how using real world data has impacted the way or the nature of operations in Honolulu. So before we dig into specific use cases, if you could kind of lay out what your process was like before in terms of coaching drivers and really maintaining that on-time performance, and then how things have kind of shifted now that you have more data.
Well, in the past, one of the ways that we would get notified that a bus was off schedule is, of course, through a complaint from a passenger. We also, our field operations people are looking at the operation real time, and they will pick up if a bus is early or late. If they're doing it every single day, they'll maybe determine that it might be an operator issue, because anytime this operator drives a specific block, then they tend to run late or early or whatever the case may be. So basically, seeing it real time and then notifying the division superintendents to bring the operator in and to talk to them or coach them, and of course to the complaint process. Now that we have been using operator reports, it gives us very easy access to very detailed information down to the operator, down to the specific trip and even stop, if you will, of how that operator is driving that specific trip. And it's really been very helpful in identifying those operators that were constantly early or late. And it's not always an operator issue. There could be a scheduling issue. There could be many different types of issues that are the cause of that operator being off schedule. But this has allowed us to get very detailed, and we bring the operator in and interview them and get their feedback. And we're going to talk about a few cases that has really helped, just because of the fact that we've had this operator reports, and we were able to actually get very detailed and actually talk to the individual operator that was having or was driving off schedule for whatever reason.
Thank you. That's really informative, and I think it's the perfect time then to segue into how y'all are actually using this data to really see kind of the information that you're getting and how you're using it. So Vera, we've had some really good conversations. I would love for you to share a little bit more about what your day-to-day looks like and how you've been using operator reports.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So before we get into this particular incident, let me explain what we initially started out doing. Was when we were introduced to this program, myself and Robbie, we're looking into on-time performance. And when we ran into situations where we noticed operators are running early, what I did was I gathered the information and did a little bit more investigating. And it looked like on my side, and when I'm referring to my side, everyone, again, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a different division located in Hawaii. We see more towards the leeward side, central part of Oahu. So I oversee about 470 operators, and we maintain operations here. So what I identified from the on-time performance report was it was majority of my operators who were running early were my feeder lines or my circular routes. So what I did was I would bring them in, introduce them to the program that we were testing or we were working on, and ask them, what's the situation? And their feedback was normally, I need to leave so I can make the connection to our main line or our trunk line. So what I did with a couple of those operators, I took the information, did a little bit more research, and then I contacted our scheduling department. Now, in this case, or the example we had here, this was generated by what we call a customer service report. And basically, the complaint was the operator was leaving a particular transit center earlier. So let me give you a little bit more detail about the route that it was involved and why he felt he needed to leave before his scheduled time. So the route involved is what we call, or is referred to as our Country Express or our Sea Express. And what it does, it leaves our Ala Moana location, which is, I'm trying to figure out a way to explain it for those of you who haven't visited Oahu.
We'll just have to.
A lot of our buses leave there and depart there. So he leaves going westbound, and he travels along our surface streets. Part of it, he goes onto the freeway as well. There's an area located on the west side of our island where it's called our Kapolei Transit Center. And that's our hub and spoke. And that's where our feeder routes come through, so we can make connections to get the people off the feeder routes onto our main line so they can disperse or travel to their destination. In this case, our Country Express, our C route, is the slide we have here is what I spoke to him about. I showed him the GPS part of it and his on-time performance. He left 2 minutes prior, which is not that bad. However, there's still another feeder route that needs to meet with him before he continues his route along the west side. So what I did was, when I brought him in, or when he came in for his report, I explained to him what the complaint was. I read it to him, and he explained to me, his explanation was, if I don't leave at the time that he does leave, and I'm looking at the schedule route, the schedule portion of it right now, is his original schedule shows him supposed to depart the Kapolei Transit Center at 7 o'clock. And his explanation was, if I leave at 7, and again, he's a trunk line or a main line, the people on his bus would not be able to make the connection to the feeder line further onto the west side of the island. So he took it upon himself to leave 2 minutes early to make the connection. So we had a discussion. I showed him the previous screen and what we're trying to do, and let me get the information and see what we can do. I forward all that information to our scheduling department. Fortunate for this gentleman, or the operator, he did go on vacation 2 weeks after, the week right after. The fix was made by the time he came back.
Wow.
So I brought him back in to let him know that here's a new schedule. This is what we were able to do, you know, and so he doesn't have to, what we call here, self-adjust, you know. So we utilize this to assist, to help the operator to make his connection.
That's great.
He was, what I'd like to also share is, initially when he did come in uneasy, you know, wasn't sure what the report was about, but because we followed through and we got back with him, when he departed, he was pleased, because he knew that we're here to make sure that, or we're here to support.
That's great.
You know, not only, help to develop it.
I could see that conversation going so differently too, you know, based off of the complaint coming in and kind of leaving in a sad way, really listening. That's fantastic. And I'm so glad to hear that the data really facilitated that schedule change and made him feel heard. So I would also love to hear a little bit about real-time usage of this data. And I think for that, we should jump to field ops. It seems like such a different use case. So John, I'm hoping you can shed some light into how you've been using these tools and share how that might look in the field ops scenario.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Let me give a little bit of background. My staff and I are responsible for managing our road supervisors who do on-street investigations and things like that, and our what we call central controllers, which in most other properties I understand are called dispatchers. And we also have what we call dispatchers, who are oftentimes the only people that meet with an operator when they come in. It's the only interaction that they'll have during the day. So together as a group, we manage the on-street operations as they occur. Prior to getting Swiftly, we would use our monthly reports that Ralph mentioned earlier to determine the performance based on routes at specific sample time periods. And then at the end of the month, we'd look back to see if we've been able to improve it by talking with the central controllers and stuff like that. Well, with this Swiftly program, we're able to drill down on specific routes during a specific time frame and see what we can find, and just have discussions with the central controllers or our dispatchers, and have them focus on that while they're on their specific work assignments. So in the example we have above, it's the Route 40, which is very similar to the route that Vera was discussing, and we were looking at it between the 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. time period. And we based the report on specific time point crossings, and then did an early descending and a late descending report. So using that information, we went back to the controllers that were responsible for that route during that specific time frame. And this route is, again, a major trunk that goes from Ala Moana, which, as Vera said, is right outside Waikiki. And the Route 40 travels along through the urban core and through many of the most densely populated areas we have on the island to Makaha Beach, which is a lovely surf spot on the west side of the island. So it's really quite nice. Vera surfs there, I've been told occasionally. Anyway, so
It's true.
So when we were looking at this, some of the controllers said, well, the earlies, which were the ones in the tops, we can just call the operators and have them leave a little bit later, get them on time. But the lates, they shared with us the fact that these lates are the result of them not getting to the starting point on time, because there wasn't enough travel time from the car house where Vera's office is down to Nanakulu, or Makaha in this case. There just wasn't enough time, because once they got into what we call the west side area, school kids were getting out, and so there was a lot of traffic for people picking up their kids and things like that, and the buses were getting late. So we discussed it and said, well, why don't we try to bring these guys in early? We'll have them start early and get down there early and see if that improves our performance. And actually it did. So the benefits that I thought we gained from this were twofold. First, it gave us a chance to interact with our controllers about a specific group of route, or in this case, the Route 40, get some feedback from them, and then test a corrective measure to see if it worked, and it did. So I think it helps the controllers feel better about the work that they're doing, because we're able to react to their suggestions. Additionally, the gentleman driving, or the operator driving the bus, realizes that his concerns are being met, and he probably feels good. I don't talk to them very often, but he probably feels good about the fact that we've taken a proactive step to help them get their work done efficiently. And I'm sure that we'll see that reflected in hopefully on their on-time performance as we continue.
Great, thank
you.
you.
So we do that kind of analysis.
Okay, yeah. And of course, I want to hear from Robbie as well. You're a superintendent as well, different area than Vera. And so I would love to know about your use cases, and yeah, because you're working so closely with operators. So it would be great for you to start sharing as well.
Oh, okay. Well, as like Vera's position, we do a lot of face-to-face interaction with operators. Normally, for something negative. However, when we did receive Swiftly, I always started the conversation is, hey, we got a new tool. It's just a tool. You're not here for any discipline. You know, we're not using this as disciplinary purposes. But here's what the tool can do. You know, all our operators understand their buses are equipped with video surveillance and GPS, but now we have this tool to organize all this data that we've been collecting for years and years and years, and how to simplify the data to show what's going on here. So when we first started using Swiftly, what we did is we found out our operators who, we call them the top 10, or who are top 10 consistently early. And we brought those top 10s in, not so much to use this as a discipline tool, but to ask them, is there a problem why you're consistently early? And, you know, to ask them, you know, I find if you have the ability to click on a particular operator, you can actually break it down where it shows their on-time performance for each and every route they drive. For example, on the bottom of this screen, it breaks it down to all the different routes, 4, 14, 13, 80, and you can ask them, wow, look at the Route 1. When you're driving the Route 1, you're almost half of the bus stops you're passing by, you're more than 2 minutes early. You know, so we questioned operators and asked them if there are a particular problem with these routes, and just used it to, you know, basically show them that we have this way to analyze it, and we've had all kinds of response, and you know, just to use this to inform operators that it's there, and is there anything we can do to help, you know. Basically, that's what we use for our top 10 operators. And then for this particular one, we had an operator who received a complaint about being early, And her response, again, like Vera's case, was, I'm trying to get my regular passengers to make a connection on time. And through the data, I showed them, is that really true? Because I show that whenever you're driving the Route 4, if you look at the top section there, you're almost 30% of the bus stops you're passing by early. So you can't tell me that you're only running early on this particular trip to get people to a connection. It shows there that you're 30% of the time you're passing bus stops more than 2 minutes early. You know, so in this particular case, I showed her that, oh, then she also gave me an example like, oh, I might have not been paying attention on this particular day. And then I actually broke down the data, got all the data from her performance in the last month to show her that that's not particularly true for just this day, but throughout the last month, you've been consistently early. And is there a reason why you're doing that? Or is it a choice that you're deciding to make on your own, you know? So it was just to show that you know, it was amazing because they looked at all the different colors and they're like, wow. And then I could actually show them, here's your on-time performance, and compare them to all the other operators to show them, you know, how much red you have opposed to the other operators, you know, and they found it like, well, really educational that, wow, you know, I'm that bad, you know. And in my next example, they actually, an operator, I showed him where he sat as far as his on-time performance. And he was amazed again, like, wow, look how much red I have, you know. And again, like operators would point out to me, hey, the route 61 and 66, it's a brand new route. You know, it's a scheduling area that they gave too much time, and we found that to be true, and adjustments have been made. But this operator was so conscientious when I showed him all his red that on his own, he wasn't asked to come back into the office. About 5-6 weeks later, he actually returned to my office and said, hey, can you run the report again? I want to see if, you know, I'm still in the top 10. And in this case, he took the initiative to conscientiously bring his on-time performance closer to on time and have less earlies. And in his case, he made a significant improvement over the last month after seeing this reports.
Wow, that is so informative, and it brings me to another kind of related question, which is for both Robbie and Vera, where you're talking with operators. Can you tell me about the operator reaction to this data? How has that changed maybe, or how have you navigated that?
Well, one of the things that did happen is when we brought the top 10s in, of course, anything you know, like the average person, they don't like change, you know, but I explained to them, hey, you know, we're always trying to make improvements, not just to benefit the company, but also to benefit the operators. And this is one of the improvements to help everybody perform better, you know, and some of them were kind of reluctant because it's new technology. They actually ran up to the union and they said, hey, I'm in the top 10. They're bringing the top 10s in to, you know, just talk with them, you know. So I've had union reps come into my office to inquire what this technology is on about, what is it being used for, and, you know, what do we plan to do with it in the future. And, you know, after showing them what it could do, and they found it, because a lot of the union reps are operators themselves, they found it like, you know, very interesting and very beneficial to, they actually wanted to see, hey, how's my on-time performance? These union reps wanted to see what their breakdown of their performance was also, you know. So the union was, you know, they wanted to know their information themselves, you know.
Yeah. And Vera, did you have anything to add there? What was the reaction like on your end?
Yeah, similar to Robbie, they hesitate to come into the office. Nobody wants to come to the office because their mindset is, you know, what did I do wrong? You know, we only talk to them when they're doing things wrong. Well, when we introduced it, or when our managers out here at Pro City, because I have 2 assistants, when we introduce it and have what we call talk story with them, we let them know that it's a new tool so we can help them reduce the stress that they're up against, you know, in the environment that they're working. And when they see that improvement has been made, their confidence, or they're more at ease, and they're happy that we're working with them and not against them. So this is a positive tool, and that's the way the operators that I spoke with, like Robbie said, initially they're like, oh, okay, what is this now? You know, what are they using to hold against us? but they see the end result. You know, the end result was we're helping to help you with the schedule versus adding.
Mhm.
So this tool was a very positive reaction from the operators that I talked to.
Great. And I would love to maybe go a little bit deeper on that union question, because that was asked by many of the participants who are dialing in today. Did you expect any concerns from the union, or how is that relationship now?
Well, anything new, we always get some, inquisition from the union. And after finding out that we weren't using it for disciplinary purposes, and we're just using it, try to make improvements, help make the drivers or operators' jobs easier, make corrections where corrections can be made, make changes where changes could be made. You know, when they found out that we're using it in a positive manner, instead of using it as a tool to chase down our problem operators, they were more accepting. And, you know, as long as we stay on that course of action, I don't foresee them giving us any problems with this Swiftly program.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and I can add a little bit to that, Meredith. You know, the grievances, all grievances in our contract have to come up to my office. And to date, I have not had any grievances and or even any business agents or shop stewards come up to my office and complain about our use of this program. So far, so good.
That's great to hear too, just at all levels. That's certainly something that I took into consideration and chatted with a lot of agencies about as we were developing this. So it's great to hear that playing out in reality as well. So I'm getting to the end of the things that I want to discuss before opening the floor, but I do just want to recap and hear from you what the results of this have been, and the primary benefits as you've started using this over the last couple of months.
Yes, well, one of the things one of the philosophies that we have, I should say, is to give the operator as much information as possible and have them, you know, use that information in the way that they see fit. For example, we have a dashboard for operators. We have a link or applications that they can use to do many things. They can, you know, look at schedules. They can look at their vacation. They can look at how much sick leave they have available. They can even actually request, floating vacation days. We call them flex vacation days. They can even change their vacation on their own, provided, you know, there are slots open. And just recently, within the past couple of weeks, we've actually deployed another link for them to look at their actual employee file. So it's they can log in, they can see their employee file for the past 3 years, or the most current 3 years, I should say. And we have electronic files for all our employees, and it's color-coded. And so, you know, it's created a lot of buzz between the operators. We can hear them talking. Some of them have actually talked to me about it, that, you know, they're looking at their own record, the same record that the superintendent uses when they go into the office, and they, you know, pretty much, as one of the examples showed, that the operator, once the operator knew that he was running early a lot, then he tried to self-police, if you will, and you know, try to improve that. And we believe that that's the same thing that's going to happen. But anyway, as I mentioned, our philosophy is to give them as much information as we can. And as you know, one of our suggestions, as we were part of, you know, the group that was trying to develop this product for Swiftly, is that we asked that if there was a way that a portal could be, operators could actually log into a portal and actually see their on-time performance anytime. And I think that would go a long way to self-policing, if you will. And as Robbie mentioned, we brought in our top 10 operators. There's a bunch more that haven't seen it. We actually, when operators come in for interviews for other things, and if there's enough time, the superintendents will also open up this operator report screen and show that individual operator what, what their performance is like, just to get the word out, if you will. So yeah, we're looking forward to, that coming online. If I understand that's on one of the feature enhancements, and we think it'll be very good to help the operators at least know what they're doing, and also when we bring it up, if they're in the office, then to coach them, they won't be surprised by it.
Yeah, I love that, the focus on transparency and unlocking not only personal employee data, but also performance data that you're going to have conversations about anyway. And are there any other reflections that you all want to share about what results you've seen using this tool?
Yeah, well, for me, the experience has been the operators are coming to see me now and bringing information to my attention once they realize, after we have the initial conversation, they'll come back and talk to me and see what we can do and work through it together. And then follow up on it.
I like the fact that we can show the data that we've come up with to our scheduling department in the hopes that they'll be able to use that information to create a schedule that's more reflective of the traffic conditions. Because we only have a limited amount of roads here on Oahu, and there aren't a lot of alternative routes to travel.
Great. Well, thank you so much for entertaining me and the questions I kind of grouped together from the submissions from folks earlier. And now I would love to open the floor to live questions. So I've been watching those come in, and I've surfaced a few that I think are very relevant and augment the conversation. And then for folks that don't hear your specific question answered, we'll wrangle some answers to that, and we'll be following up with participants with an email that has links and more descriptive answers to some of the things that we don't cover today. So one question that I just saw come in is what have your schedulers thought about this tool? And as an adjacent question, how have you been able to change your schedule so quickly without kind of ruffling the feathers of passengers?
You want to take that, Vera?
Sure. How do I? Well, unfortunately, we don't change it that quickly. My situation was not an isolated incident, but it was something that could be adjusted for the favor to favor the passenger or favor the operator. Fortunate at our end, where the change was made, there's other buses passing through, so it didn't affect the passengers as bad as they think it does. But scheduling has always, we've always had a positive relationship with scheduling. So when we bring things to their attention, they look into it. If they can make adjustments in midsection of the sign up, fine. If they can't, they'll let us know. They'll make the adjustment in the future. But it's been a very positive rapport. So it's not always quickly taken care of, but there's a response so we can get back to the operator to have a better understanding what's going on, and it is in the works.
That's great. I bet a lot of people will want to talk with you all and learn about that relationship a little bit more. And another question is, what's next for the bus using operator reports? Do you have plans for using it in the future, and how will it evolve in your vision?
Well, as I mentioned, we're looking forward to the day, hopefully soon, that we can have a portal for the operators to look into. There's a lot of data. We haven't really been using it that long, so we're still, getting learning it a bit, and we're still excited about using all of the data really to start to get to other operators, and whether they're early or late, or even to get to the point where we want to congratulate the operators that actually are running on time a lot. So we haven't had that chance yet to do that, but that's some of our plans going forward.
Great, and I've of course noted a couple of those, especially on the wish list items. Let's see. Let me pull another audience question, and we're going to wrap up in about 5 minutes. So I want to be choice about these things. Have you seen an improvement in operator morale?
Robbie, you guys want to talk about that?
Go ahead, Robbie, you go first.
Honestly, honestly, because we've had it such a short time, I wouldn't even say that we got to show it to 10% of our operators. You know, I have over 500 operators here at my division, and I'd be lucky to say if over 60 of them have seen it so far. You know, so very few have seen it, but anytime an operator brings us an issue, safety issue, a scheduling issue, when something is done about it, you know, something as simply as trimming a tree, they're happy because it shows them that they do matter and what they say does matter to us, and we have done something. So when a scheduling issue is changed, especially like in the example Jay shared, when something easily fixed like travel time, just make the report time 15 minutes earlier. You pay the operator an extra 15 minutes to get to a starting point on time, something that can easily be fixed in that manner. Of course, the operators are happy about, you know, changes being made, especially when it makes their job a little more pleasant to come to, you know. So I have seen, I wouldn't say a significant change in upbeat and personal, but every little thing counts, you know, for everything that's done based on an operator's opinion, and we can do something about it. It does boost morale.
If I could interject on that, Robbie, when we changed we weren't able to change the schedule for the operators on the Route 40 fast enough for the rest of the time that we have left on this particular sign up. So what we do is we call the operators and ask them to come in early and let them know that we're going to pay them the extra travel time. Occasionally there were operators that would come in early and leave early and not get paid for it just because they're trying to stay on time. Now that we're paying for it, I'm sure they're going to get that word out and say, hey, look, you know, they're paying us for this. And I mean, we pay them when we know about it, but if we're not aware of them leaving early, which we discovered through this process, we just started to pay them for it. And I'm sure they're happy about that. I certainly would be.
Yeah, how do I arrange that in my crazy?
Yeah.
I get here early too.
Yeah.
I just want to add something
go on,
quickly,
Barry.
Meredith, on that. Is, you know, this tool has helped us as managers to get the information out to the operators to let them know that we're here, we're listening, we want to help. So in that aspect of it, it has improved their morale. Right now, they're frustrated, and I'm sure all the other agencies, their operators are frustrated because just about the manpower issue. Now the operators know that the managers are here and we're actually actively listening and doing something about it because we have a new tool. So that aspect of it is, you know, the word gets out like Robbie says, and, you know, they're coming in. We're trying to assist, doing the best we can, but they're just frustrated because a lot of them are working 6 days a week.
Yeah. So I'll ask one more question. I think this is a great one to bring up. And then, like I said, we will round up other questions and send a follow-up to all the participants. So this question, it says, I think this is fantastic. Are you using the reports to also recognize operators that consistently meet their performance KPIs? So kind of the flip side of the performance issues?
We will. We have not yet. As I said, we have just kind of, you know, really getting it into detail with it. And so far we've kind of, you know, looking at the people that are running really late and really early. But this will definitely be used as a, you know, as a pat on the back, so to speak, for those operators that have, you know, run on time for most of their schedule. So absolutely, yes, we will.
Great. Well, this has been an amazing 45 minutes. I feel like we packed in a ton. I hope that the audience had just as much fun as I did. I know that I speak on behalf of everyone when I'm giving you a virtual round of applause. It's been such an honor working with all of you. And thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, and aloha to everyone.
Thank you.
Aloha.
See you soon. I'll be out
Yes.
to Honolulu. All right.
Okay, go visit.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha.